Good evening. Jeff Dawson here, best-selling Amazon author. Love's True Second Chance, occupation, gateway coach. This evening, I'm going to do a correlation between sports and relationships because something struck me and I really haven't talked about it. It is in my book, Love's True Second Chance, but in any of the podcasts or YouTube videos I've done, I never really touch on this one topic. All of my books are on Amazon, or you can go to jeffdawsonauthor.site, and that's the funnel that will take you to all the books. Last Wednesday, the 23rd, Gale Sayers passed away at 77. He was one of the most fluid runners in the NFL. If you have a chance, look him up and watch him run. He played for the Chicago Bears. He had a roommate, Brian Piccolo. I believe they were together for 2 or 3 years. And Brian would die of cancer. Well, they made a movie of this, and it's called Brian's Song. And I'm not talking about the crappy remake they did, I think back in the 80s or 2000s. I'm talking about the original one with James Caan and Billy Dee Williams. It is a gut-wrencher because it's true. In one of the scenes, Jack Warden, who plays the head coach of the Bears, Halas, calls Gale in. Brian's already had one surgery, and he lost a portion of his lung. And Gale comes in, and he's all excited about the game they're about to play, and everybody's really getting hyped up. And Jack Warden tells him that they didn't get it all. And the doctors haven't told this to Brian yet. And Gale decides that he will take it upon himself to go to Brian and tell him they're going to have to operate again. And that's a really tough scene. And it got me to thinking, when a loved one of ours has cancer, we have family, we have friends, we have acquaintances, and based on the wishes of the person who's been diagnosed, we do know what's coming and how many people are going to know about it. And it's not hard. Let me take that back. It is hard to tell, say, your brother, your sister, an in-law, an outlaw in some cases, that a loved one has terminal cancer and there's not much you can do. And we grieve together and we prepare ourselves for it. When Gale Sayers said he would notify Brian, it really hit a chord. If you haven't read Love's True Second Chance, of course, I will highly recommend it. If you have someone who is going through cancer, who has lost a loved one, because I really do cover all the spectrums, because Debbie would be the third person very close to me that I lost from cancer. First one was my partner, then my father, and then Debbie. I talked to the doctors. I had a real good idea where this was headed. Her MRI was horrible. The cancer was everywhere. Okay, so I know about it. I call her parents and I tell them about it. For whatever reason, they really didn't grasp the gravity of their daughter's situation. But there were 2 other people I had to tell. I had told her best friend, Kathy. She had another good friend who was a nurse at the McAllister Hospital. So they knew. But there were two other people that had to know. And those were her daughters. Yes, they knew mom had the mastectomy over a year ago. They knew their mom had gone through chemo and had finished up radiation treatment. And that's when she and I got back together. But what they didn't really know is just how bad this was going to be. When we got the diagnosis from the oncologist and the MRI, and I went back and I met the oldest daughter, and she wanted to know what to expect. And without batting an eye, I said, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to lie? And she goes, I'm tired of people lying. I need the truth. Okay. Jessica's a very strong girl, even at 14. And I laid it out. Barring a miracle, your mom's going to die. And she said, okay. I said, do you want me to tell your sister Amanda? She said, no, I'll do that. So this was in April of 2009. And life goes on. Until July 20th of 2009. And that's the day Debbie died. I believe that was a Monday morning. It was about 9 a.m. It was a beautiful morning too. Not a cloud in the sky, and the sun was up. And one of those days that all you can think of is that there's hope. Something's going to happen. Her friend Kathy came over because she was going to relieve me. I'd been at the hospital for the last 24 hours. Her girls were home sleeping. They had been up there for like, I think 12 hours or 14. They took them home. They went to bed, and then I stayed the night with Debbie. When the doctor came in and told me, I'm sorry, she's gone, I absolutely fell apart. It was terrible. And once I composed myself, there was two people that didn't know their mom had passed. And someone had to tell them. And I consider myself a pretty strong man, but not that day. And I looked at Kathy, and I'm going to have to, I think Lisa was, yes, Lisa's her name. This was her other friend in McAllister. And they go, how are you going to tell the girls? I said, I can't do it by myself. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this. My partner and my dad, that was different. But children, how do you do that? Debbie and I aren't married. We're somewhat engaged, per se. Because they did ask me at the hospital if I was her fiance, and the answer was yes. I asked those girls, I need you to come with me, because I don't know if I can keep it together. Do you have any idea how hard it is to do that? Telling my children that my dad had died of cancer and my mom had passed away from natural causes was easy. But then they all knew. Well, even though her girls had an idea that mom's really sick and it's not looking good, the thought of me having to go tell them that your mother's gone never entered any of the scenarios I could possibly come up with as her cancer progressed. This was horrible. So we went back to the house. Lisa and Kathy went with me. And I think Kathy, either Kathy went upstairs or I did and just told the girls, you need to come downstairs. What a horrible thing to have to tell a teenager and a preteen that their mom had died. And to this day, I don't talk about it much. Yes, it's in the book, but when I do an interview or a podcast like this or type an interview out, I've never really discussed that. Maybe it's because it was just too difficult at the time, and even to this day, that was a very surreal moment that I don't wish on anybody. But it was terrible, and watching Brian's song reminded me of having to go back to their mom's house, wake them up, and tell them, I'm sorry, Debbie died this morning. That was rough. And as I said, I don't wish that on anybody. But that is my sports relationship analogy. Because when Gail died, I found the movie Brian's Song on YouTube, and it's free for those who'd like to watch it. But when that scene hit, and Gale Sayre said he would go tell his teammate that, I'm sorry, they didn't get it all, and they're going to have to do it again, that really struck a chord. That was tough. And I really hope none of you ever have to go through that. Because even to this day, that's one of the memories that I just don't think about. I believe it might have brought her girls closer, but having to go tell someone of that age, 14 and 12, that your mother has died, or in some cases your father, that is a really difficult burden to bear. But as adults, it's something we have to do. I hope you have a good evening, and I will talk to you later.